What's up, cool cats and kittens? It is Uncle Mad here. It is super late at night right now while I'm recording this. I just finished watching the full 4-hour Snyder cut of Justice League. And it was good. I'm processing my thoughts. I literally just stopped watching it about 2 minutes ago. I'm kind of taken aback that, it's not like a great, epic, all-time classic like, Endgame or The Dark Knight, but I don't know how they had the possibility of making this movie and made something so bad with what they did with the theatrical release of the Justice League movie. So what I'm gonna do is, for this vlog, I'm gonna go back and watch the original theatrical release of Justice League. Since I think I've only watched it once. Pretty sure I hated it. But to fairly judge what's happened here, I feel like I need to refresh my mind on that. But I wanted to start the vlog right after the first viewing of the Snyder cut, because I liked it, I enjoyed it. I started it at about 9 o'clock at night. I thought maybe because it's divided into chapters, maybe I'd just watch 1 or 2 chapters tonight and then watch some more, but it hooked me in. So that's got to say something to it, that it kept me entertained, kept me engaged for 4 hours. I didn't get bored. I didn't feel like, oh, this is a good time to stop, I'll turn this off and go do something else. So yeah, I initially I don't notice obviously it's longer, that's a big thing, but I don't know the huge what was added to the 2-hour release by Joss Whedon when he took over the original cut. If you don't know the whole backstory of this, look it up. It's all very interesting Hollywood type stuff. So Ole has joined me as he usually does. But I can't remember from having watched the original cut so long ago what was in, what was out, what was new, what was here, what was there, what was here in between. But like I said, initial viewing, Snyder cut was good. It was definitely better than the theatrical Justice League. It was definitely better than Batman Superman Dawn of Justice, but I'm going to go back. So this is what we're going to do in this vlog. I'm going to go back. I'm going to rewatch the original theatrical release of Justice League, which was started by Zack Snyder but finished by Joss Whedon. And you can kind of tell. I do remember from when I watched it way back when, you can definitely tell that there's a change in tone, there's a definitely change in vision in the movie at a certain point. So I'm going to rewatch that to get a more fresh take on what was going on in that one. Then I'll probably watch Snyder Cut again. That way I have them back to back. And also I'm kind of tired right now, so who knows what's going on. This might just be sleep deprivation that's making me think this is a good movie. Who knows? So we'll come back, we'll do a full review, full breakdown, Easter eggs, additions, changes, because there's definitely a lot more in the Snyder Cut that feels like they were setting up the bigger DC cinematic universe, which they were planning to do. And now thinking back, it almost feels like when they put together the Justice League movie that Joss Whedon put together, that they just said, we're done with this crap, just let's get a movie out because we spent all this time filming it, let's get it out there. And the Snyder Vision would have set up a lot of stuff. So definitely going to rewatch Justice League, the 2-hour Joss Whedon edition. Might rewatch the Snyder Cut, and then we'll kind of go from there. But started out the vlog here, initial reactions, Snyder Cut, pretty good. So shortly you'll see the next phase of this breakdown and review after I rewatch Joss Whedon. Josh Whedon? Who knows? I'm gonna rewatch the Justice League movie that like 3 different people, probably more. Joss Whedon's the final credited director who came in and took over, but it feels like a lot of people got their hands in the cookie jar on that one, so, as I recall. But we're gonna rewatch it and we'll see what happens. Okay, so as you can see, I have just completed watching the original cut of Justice League. It was better than I remembered it being, so that's a step in the right direction at least. I think the big overarching difference between the 2 movies is obviously the 4-hour version develops the characters a little better, and there's a lot more clarity about what the bad guy's trying to do. In this version, it's just straight up Steppenwolf. There's no dark side. There's no allusions to dark side. Steppenwolf's just come to Earth. They even like redid the whole flashback sequence to when the mother boxes and him first came to Earth. Steppenwolf is the one who comes, not dark side. Weird choice that, but whatever. Outside of that, I mean, you would expect there to be more clarity, more development in a 4-hour movie as opposed to a 2-hour movie. The Snyder cut basically fits in an entire Cyborg movie within the movie, so you get a lot more of him. He's a lot better, more well fleshed out. I can see why, you know, outside of whatever some of the other issues he has, I can see why Ray Fisher was not happy with the first Justice League cut, because it basically, I don't want to say ruins his character, but I mean his character's kind of pointless other than just kind of being there to do some things, but he gets fleshed out and has a full backstory and a lot more development in the Snyder cut. Flash similarly has a lot more going on, a lot more development in the Snyder cut, but overall it's Cyborg and the villain's backstory that gets the best upgrade in the Snyder cut version. I wrote down some noticing differences that I had. This is an interesting thought I had. Okay, so the Flash's dad is played by Billy Crudup, who played Dr. Manhattan in the Watchmen movie, also made by Zack Snyder. I think it's better than people give it credit for. I actually like that one. So, I don't know if it's still the case, but at one point in time, the Flash solo movie starring Ezra Miller was going to be Flashpoint, which in the comics is a story where the Flash and his villains created an alternate universe, and once they reset it and got it back to normal, it rebooted the DC history. It gave them the chance to start some stories from scratch, kind of reset the heroes as being a little bit younger, a little bit newer to their roles. I kind of thought they might do that with the Flashpoint movie, because, you know, move on from Ben Affleck, let the new Batman come into continuity, maybe even Superman, change out Henry Cavill for somebody else. I don't know if that's still the case. I don't know if they're still planning to do that. What they revealed in the comics eventually was that it was actually Dr. Manhattan who secretly created the Flashpoint universe and rebooted the DC universe. Could Billy Crudup and his history of being Dr. Manhattan come into play in the Flashpoint movie, if he's in the Flashpoint movie? I don't know. Just a weird thought I had while watching the movie. Martian Manhunter gets a big cameo in the Snyder cut. He's not in the original cut at all, but we learned that the little military general that was in Man of Steel is actually secretly Martian Manhunter in disguise. He introduces himself to Batman at the end. He also plays a role where he pretends to be Martha Kent to help Lois Lane get over Superman's passing and rejoin the world. In Snyder Cut, you know, and this tracks with what Snyder had previously done, I mean, the heroes are just straight up murderers. The end of the movie, brutally, Aquaman impales Steppenwolf, and then Wonder Woman just straight cuts his head off. Superman kicks him through a portal back to Darkseid. I mean, they just straight up murder him at the end of that one, which, you know, it is what it is. That's, I think, one of the people's complaints with Snyder stuff is that he doesn't quite have the full grasp of, like, heroes and what their motivation and means are. But, I mean, if you just put it aside, say, this is his version of the heroes, he's doing what he wants with them. They don't have to be just like your version, your favorite version from the comic books or whatever, where they don't kill, where Batman doesn't shoot guns nonstop through 3 movies. But the change in the ending in Whedon's version, they don't kill Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf starts to be afraid of them, which causes his parademons that feed on fear to turn on him. So it's
kind of a weird, like, Scar from The Lion King with the hyenas turning on him ending, as opposed to the superheroes just straight up murdering the bad guy. The Snyder Cut has none of the weird CGI mustache stuff that they had to do when they brought Henry Cavill back in to reshoot some stuff with Joss Whedon. He'd grown a mustache out for Mission Impossible and still had it. So they had to CG out his mustache, and it's very weirdly noticeable. His lip looks super weird in some of the scenes. Both the Snyder Cut and the full Justice League movie have these weird teases of like a romantic tension between Wonder Woman and Batman, but there's just like a one tease and then it never goes anywhere. Maybe they could have done that if they'd kept this going, if the universe had continued on past this movie. Steppenwolf is CG. He looks completely different in the two different movies. In this one, he's a little bit more human looking in the face. He's a little smaller, I think. They completely redid the CGI on him on the Snyder Cut, and he looks more scary, more intimidating in the Snyder Cut than this, but that was just an interesting thing that I thought was an interesting thing for Scott Snyder, great comic book writer, Zack Snyder, to want to change about the movie, is just re-CGIing the look of Steppenwolf. Like I said, no mention of Darkseid at all. Steppenwolf doesn't claim to be like a herald of him or somebody who works for him or part of his alliance. He references he wants to rejoin his place in the New Gods, but that's the closest it comes to anything. There's no shots of Darkseid. You don't get the Omega symbol anywhere. So really kind of took out all the teases and the lead up that would have led to a bigger battle with Darkseid in a future movie. Which kind of makes me think, at the point in time when they got rid of, or when Zack Snyder had to step away, DC had probably made a decision at that point in time that they're probably just going to steer away from the shared universe concept and kind of go back to what they've always done of standalone movies with the characters. And so that's the biggest thing outside of the changes to Steppenwolf and his backstory and fleshing out the characters. The original release takes out almost everything that would tease future movies, set up future events. It kind of conjoins everything into a nice little ball and says, here's the movie, this is it. If this is all we do, we don't have to worry about the fact that we teased 100 different things that are never going to come to be. So that's interesting to kind of think about that way. There's a whole subplot that was added to the final act where civilians are trying to escape where the battle's happening. I feel like that's 100% something that Joss Whedon would have added, because the final battle is specifically set in like a weird abandoned Eastern European country that had a nuclear fallout from a nuclear facility. I feel like Zack Snyder specifically was set it there because he took so much criticism for all the civilian death and destruction that came in Man of Steel's final battle. But for whatever reason, when Joss Whedon took over, he thought maybe there needed to be an extra element of danger or civilian experience in there. And there's this whole subplot of civilians who had kind of resettled in the area trying to escape, and Flash and Superman helped them get out. But that's completely excised from the Snyder Cut. It's just a straight up big bombastic battle, which is great. So, and I fully like the finale of the Snyder Cut better, because there's also like this weird red hue coloration in the original cut that looks fakish. That's taken out in the Snyder Cut. It's a more natural looking colorization of the final scene there. But and they also changed, this was kind of weird, the post-credits scene with Lex Luthor and Deathstroke. In the original cut, it's really choppy and cut together. I feel like they just shot stuff and then like Jesse Eisenberg maybe had to come back in and redo the dialogue, and because it's from behind his head, you don't see him saying all the words as much. In the original cut, he just says, Deathstroke, hey, looks like they're all forming a team, maybe we should too, teasing the Legion of Doom in Justice League, whatever, would come together and be a foe for them in a future Justice League movie. In the Snyder Cut, he gives Deathstroke a piece of information to help Deathstroke go after Batman. He tells Deathstroke that Batman's real identity is Bruce Wayne. So I think that fits with what Snyder would have been doing, because originally there was going to be a Ben Affleck solo Batman movie following this, and Deathstroke was going to be the villain of that. So this would have set up that movie more than what ended up in the original cut. So that makes sense there, because that's literally the only thing that teases a future movie in the entire original cut of Justice League, is that little tease of let's get a team together ourselves. So I guess maybe DC kept that in just as they knew at that point they weren't going to do the solo Ben Affleck movie, but they still thought maybe they'd come back and do another Justice League movie or something like that. So get rid of the tease of a setup of a Batman movie and change it to a setup of a Justice League sequel. I don't know. Those are some of the main key differences. Like I said, I was kind of surprised. I liked the original cut better than I thought I remembered liking it. I still think the Snyder Cut's much better. But to wrap up this vlog, I am going to watch the Snyder Cut one more time. This is a video. I watched 4 hours of the Snyder Cut. I watched 2 hours of the original cut. Now I'm watching 4 hours of the Snyder Cut again. So don't ever say I don't put in the work for these vlogs, because that's 10 hours of mindless superhero movie watching that I've done just for this one vlog. So one last segment to come. I'm going to rewatch the Snyder Cut now that I've watched it all together and kind of wrap everything up in a nice bow for one final summary. So that's going to be coming up shortly. Well, not shortly, because I have to watch a 4-hour thing. So shortly for you, not shortly for me. Okay, so Snyder Cut rewatch is done. No new thoughts. Everything kind of that I've said so far tracks. So it's definitely a better overall product than the original Justice League cut that Joss Whedon put out. It fits better tonally with everything that had come before, even though sometimes what had come before wasn't that great. This feels like maybe Zack Snyder had kind of worked out the kinks of the stuff that went wrong in Man of Steel, the stuff that went wrong in Dawn of Justice. It feels like he kind of had found his rhythm, found a way to tell these character stories in a way that fit his ideal form. Like, once again, as I mentioned, Batman just shooting guns like crazy, murdering people. Not everybody's take on Batman, but it's Zack Snyder's take on Batman. And he kind of figured it out and worked the tone out to where you get what he's doing. You get, this is a different Batman. This is not your father's Batman. I don't know if that fits here or not, but whatever. It's a good movie. If you're really into, comic book movies and you got 4 hours of spare time, definitely watch it. Much, much better than the original Justice League. But I did read an interview with Zack Snyder where he talked about how his vision for what was going to come from this, had he not been interrupted in the process of making it originally, was, I'm not exactly sure what he was trying to express here, but this movie was going to be part 3 of a 5-part trilogy. That's something I think he actually said. I don't know, that makes no sense. But he kind of laid out some of the stuff that would have come out in like the sequel to this, that between the death of Superman and his return, Lois and Batman would have had an affair. Lois would be pregnant, and there'd be some kind of wonky obscurity as to who was the father of the child, Superman or Batman. Somewhere along the way, Darkseid would show up. They'd have this big battle. Batman would sacrifice himself and die. There'd be a flash forward where Bruce Kent, the son that Lois had, would grow up to be the next Batman. That's an interesting take, Superman's son becoming the next Batman, but the little wonkiness of the Lois and Bruce Wayne having an affair, and maybe it's their baby, I don't like that. So that's kind of glad Zack Snyder didn't get to do that part of his idea. So it's not all bad. He's pretty much said he's done with DC movies. He's moving on to other things. But one of the biggest things that I took away from the Snyder Cut is he teased so many interesting things that could have happened. Not the Lois and Bruce thing, but there's so many things in the 4-hour cut that teased future projects. The Deathstroke versus Batman, the ultimate potential Superman turning bad, all the nightmare dream sequences. That was one of the best parts of the Snyder Cut. There's a sequence where there's a flash forward of a potential future. Bruce Wayne has another nightmare with a K because he's the Dark Knight, you get it. And in the future, he's created like a makeshift Justice League that's him, Mara, Deathstroke, Flash, and Jared Leto's Joker, which he was 100 times better in this than he was in the stupid Suicide Squad movie. But that little 10-minute sequence was like one of the most interesting things in the whole movie. And I kind of want to see a point where we get to that movie. I'd like to see the Superman turns on the world and Batman has to form this rogue death squad of Justice Leaguers, an unholy alliance with the Joker type thing. That would be interesting, but like I said, Zack Snyder has said he's done with DC movies. If this is a big success for HBO Max, though, I don't know that somebody doesn't back up the Brinks truck full of money and try to convince him that he's not as done as he thought he was. But I enjoyed it. It was definitely the best thing Zack Snyder's done in the DC universe. Outside of Watchmen, I still think Watchmen's really good. A lot of people didn't like it. That's another story for another day. I did like it. I'm interested to see, we know that Bruce Wayne's version of Batman is coming back for the Flash standalone movie, but we're also getting Michael Keaton's version of Batman in that movie, so there's going to be some multiverse crossover stuff going on. Interested to see what they do there. Do they kind of use that to kind of retool, reboot the whole connected universe, or do they do what they've kind of been doing anyway and kind of let everything go their separate ways? Let the Robert Pattinson Batman have its corner of the universe. Let whatever Ta-Nehisi Coates' new Superman movie is going to be have its own corner, its own thing to do, and nobody has to worry about tying in or connecting to each other. But I enjoyed it. Watch it if you've got 4 hours to kill. But if you don't have 4 hours to kill, subscribe to my channel because all my videos are short, and most of the time they're stupid and you can cut them off after like 30 seconds when you realize they're going to be bad. Deal. Good deal. But subscribe. Just because you're subscribed doesn't mean you have to watch any of them. Give this video a thumbs up, not a thumbs down. Let me know in the comments down below, what are your thoughts on the Snyder cut? What are your thoughts on the original cut? What are your thoughts on all the movies of the Snyderverse that he put together? Do you want to see more of it? Do you want to see something new? What are your thoughts on the future of the DC cinematic universe, movies, whatever's going to happen next? But the most important thing is always, I'm getting bad at this. I used to have all these good ones about like saying it was Sting quote, but then I'd talk it was like Sting the wrestler, not Sting the performer. Whatever. Don't stand so close to me. I can only slide so far because the plastic that my chair sits on doesn't go that far, but I'm trying to do a slide out thing. Let's try it again. Maybe if I get a little more momentum.